up and get back to everybody who's been on
Ryan
pause
Ian's
for
here.
a
How was
minute.
that? How was that conference? Was it all right?
Yeah, it was very good, very
Yeah.
busy.
What's the
We had
best conference
a
that you
lot
go
of
to,
new interest.
or the biggest? What's the biggest or the
For
best?
I would suggest that one. I mean, there's a lot going on at that one. A lot of
Okay.
people, a lot of vendors.
Do you also go to
Um,
the Jurassic ones or that
we
Pitbull
do
one?
we do both of those are good events for us.
Okay.
There's a lot of Jurassic ones, so can't really go to all of them, but
Which one's the
um,
biggest?
I believe either the Apple or the most recent Pitbull. They were
Pitbull's
both
pretty big, yeah.
500 plus people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You don't go
Pitbull kind
any
of keeps growing.
you don't go any to any like really big conference like Mortgage Bankers Association or something like that?
No, because we don't really deal with banks too much.
Yeah.
Because they deal with conventional financing a lot.
Yep.
We're looking for lenders. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So thankfully there are conference that are very specific to what we do, and those are the ones we focus on. You know, we could spend there's plenty of ones you can go to and try to fish for a few guys here or there, but the ones we do go to are just jammed with private lenders. You know,
Yep.
so we like
Okay.
those.
All right. Good. So two things we wanted to see today are construction module and then ACH. Steve only needs to see the construction part, so we can do construction first and then ACH at the end. That would probably be ideal.
Okay. Excellent. And you guys are doing interest on the amount dispersed?
And we do it both ways right now. And we just kind of manually, well, your system can handle interest on the amount dispersed only as it stands, but just by increasing the loan amount each time we disperse money. But it's not ideal because
Sure.
we don't keep good track of what the maximum loan amount is, for instance.
Right. And then are you sending out statements and so forth?
We send out basic statements. Yeah, we send out statements. Yep.
Okay.
But I'm guessing with the construction module, the statements are more detailed. Is that accurate?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Exactly. So they can kind of break down exactly
Yeah.
what part of the month was this, what part of the month was that, and
Yeah.
so forth.
And we're doing a fair amount of construction draws now. So that's also part
Okay.
of your construction module, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, tracking that and recording it and all that. So cool. Well, excellent. Let me grab Rick on the line.
Okay.
I think you've worked with Rick before.
Yep.
Ian. He's pretty detailed and kind of handle all the more technical or more technical term related questions. So
Okay.
let me grab him on the line to kind of start and walk through it.
Okay. Cool.
Hang
Thanks.
on 1 second here.
You missed that whole stack.
Okay.
Hello, this is Rick. Do I have Ian and who else?
And Steve Nolander, my colleague. Hi, Rick.
Hello.
Hey, Rick.
Hey. All right. Give me a second to finish logging into your meeting.
Okay.
Hold on. I pushed the wrong button. 1 second. Try again. So I know you want to talk about construction and ACH. On the ACH side, are you planning to use it to pay investors or to get the money from borrowers?
Get money from borrowers for the most part. Does it pay investors too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I noticed you have our partnership program. How many investors do you guys have, approximately?
25, I think.
Okay, and do you do monthly distributions to them?
No, we do them quarterly. So that's not the biggest part of our burden. We're mostly interested in it for the borrower part, but if it does both, all the better.
Yeah, a lot of our customers get it more for the investor side than the borrower side, but it certainly works for both.
Oh, okay.
How many approximate loans do you guys have active at any one time?
Let me look. I think we have like 60 at the moment.
Okay. And how are they typically making payments at this time?
It's all ACH draws, and we just do them manually via our bank website. And the volume's getting big enough that we're starting to make mistakes, decimal points and stuff.
Sure. Okay. And so what do you want to see first, the construction or the ACH?
Construction, because Steve will drop off after that is done. He doesn't need to see the ACH.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right, so let's talk about construction. So you guys seeing the software on the screen now?
I see it. Yep. Steve sees it.
Yep.
Did you get rid of some of the WebEx clutter, like the user stuff on the right and all that?
I haven't, but I've got a pretty big screen, so it looks fine to me. Steve, sure.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, all right. So what you see on the screen now is a loan that I've set up as a construction loan in our system.
Okay.
And what that means is that during loan setup, you're going to pick the loan type of construction.
Okay. And we've got a construction tab now that we don't have access to, I see, at the bottom. Right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Now, before I get into that, I want to go over some other basic stuff. So there's two main things that turning it on as a construction loan does.
Yeah. And
the main thing is that if you're doing draws, like if I look at the loan history, it's saying that we had an additional draw at closing of $650, and then like 10 days later, we gave them another 100. Okay. Mm-hmm. So one of the main things is, and I'm jumping way ahead, but I'm doing this intentionally to give you the big picture, is that at the end of the month, you're going to come here and you have to run bills.
Okay.
On non-construction loans, you don't really need to produce a bill, but on construction loans, you do, because it sort of acts like a credit card statement. It does a cutoff as of a date. So it says, okay, at March 31, this was your activity for the month, and this is what your new interest payment's going to be.
Oh, okay.
So you actually have to run the bill before you can post a payment on this loan.
That's interesting. So a bill is like a statement, but not. It's a billing statement, huh? So it's run differently than running a borrower statement. Is that?
Well, this is an invoice to your borrower.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to run it. If you don't run, see on the other ones, if you don't print a statement, nobody cares.
Well,
because on a conventional loan, interest is calculated during payment entry.
Okay.
On a construction loan, interest is calculated during billing. So you have to run these.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and you understand what I'm saying. Like on a conventional loan, if you don't print the bill, you can still post next month's payment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these you can't. You got to run a bill.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But that wasn't really the point of showing you this. The point of showing you this is you see how it's looking at the daily balances to calculate the new interest payment?
Yeah.
That's why I'm showing you this, because the other thing doesn't really do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't show the borrower this. So this is one of the main reasons why people get the system. Now also, if you have this loan set up for pre-authorized debits or ACH debits, it's going to update the debit amount automatically too.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the reasons why you have the construction module is for the billing.
Okay.
It's for the billing and resetting the payment amount automatically. That's one reason. I'm going to make a copy of this for later. Yeah, so in fact, that is the main reason why people get the construction module. Now, the secondary thing that it can do, if you look at the terms screen for a second, it's $1 million loan.
Mm-hmm.
The balance is currently $750,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the loan hasn't been fully paid out yet. On the construction tab, and this is optional, not everybody actually uses this part of the software. But one of the things this module allows you to do is to track the line item budget. In other words, what are they supposed to spend the money on?
Yeah, this is what I wanted Steve
So in
to
other
see.
words, on a
Construction draw type stuff.
right. So on a construction loan, you don't want to give them all the money and then find out later they only did half the work.
Yeah.
So you get to keep track of the budget, what's been paid out, and what's still available per line item.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's up to you. This could be 2 or 3 line items, it could be 20, or it could be 200 or more. So it's up to you how much detail you go through in this.
We get reasonably detailed. Will you be showing us later what a construction draw would look like?
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
But again, it's up to you. This could be less detail or more detail. It's up to you.
Okay.
Most of our customers, if they give sort of a list of items to the borrowers and say, use this to submit your loan request. That way, they pretty much look consistent from job to job.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you are using the budget, when they come in and ask for more money, Steve, you'd go into the system under vouchers, and you'd say, oh, well, we need to create a new construction voucher. You can have a payee link to the account automatically. It could be a general contractor, it could be the borrower, or you could pick anybody else you want to pay. So you get to select who's going to be the recipient of this draw when you disperse it. So let's say we want to pay the construction company, that's in this case also the borrower,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to pick from the list of line items what they want to get paid for. So let's say they're calling them, so I want to get paid for the electrical work. Well, the budget for electrical is $15,000, and maybe they're telling you that they've done the whole thing, and they want to get paid the whole amount. So right now we're just going to take their word for it that they're 100% complete. In my example, the draw is coming in and then you do the inspections, but it could happen the reverse order too.
Okay.
So they're asking for $15,000. Maybe on the same draw, they also want to get paid for plumbing. And so maybe they say, well, we've done the rough plumbing, so just give me half of that. Say, okay, we're going to queue up a check for half. So right now, the example I'm showing you, Steve, is that the borrower is coming in on March 31 saying we need another $18,000 for these items. And you're probably going to put that on hold until you do some sort of a site inspection. So right now we have a pending draw request.
Mm-hmm.
You could also queue up an inspection request. So you could pick from a list of vendors, and you'd say, I want Joe to go out and look at this job on this date at this time, and you could give him some instructions too. So right now we have a pending inspection and a pending draw request. So it may be somebody's job is to say, do I have any inspections that need to be done between now and the end of the week?
Does that pending request generate an email, or is it just in the system and on this report?
It's just in the system and on this report. But once you queued this up, then you could email it to Joe from here.
Yep. Okay. Got it.
But it doesn't automatically send an email to Joe. But you could, somebody looking at this, and say, send this to Joe.
Okay.
So we can tell Joe to go look at these jobs. Now, you may want to give him something to take with him to the job site. And I would recommend the disbursement versus completion report. So you could say, okay, which jobs do we want Joe to go look at? And then you could run the disbursement versus completion report for those jobs.
Cool.
And so this way, Joe gets to see the large scope of the job, what's been previously paid out, and what's pending is what he's supposed to go inspect, including what the owner builder thinks his percentage of completion is. So he's either going to approve or deny this draw request. Make a copy of that for later too. All right, now, I don't know whether you have investors on these loans or what, but during the inspection, oftentimes you'll do a capital call.
Well, that's interesting.
And if you're going to do a capital call, yeah, so if you have different, again, I don't know whether you have a fund or two funds, or you have individual
we have a fund,
investors.
so that would be unlikely to use it, but it's interesting to know that you can. How does that work?
Yeah, well, even with the fund, you may not have that idle cash sitting in the fund, so you may need to go raise some capital in order to cover that draw. I don't know.
Possible.
Or maybe you have a line of credit with leveraging or whatever. We do have something in here called funding commitments if there's outside sources of who's said they put up money for draws. I don't think many people are using this, but this just gives you a list of, well, you can enter a draw request with a date you need it. You can enter a request with the date you need it, and who's promised to put up those funds. Right now, this list of where it says lenders here, these are not partners in the fund; these are direct lenders. It's not really commitments from the members of your fund because they're not in the system as lenders; they're in the system as partners. This is really for participating lenders or something like that.
Okay.
But I don't want to get hung up on the commitments because I don't think that's the main reason why people get
that's
this.
Fine.
But to get back on track, so we have a pending draw request, we have a pending inspection, and maybe if there was a participating lender, you might want to go ask for that capital while the inspection's being done. Because if you wait until after the inspection's done, then the borrower is waiting, to get his payment. The reason I tell the story this way is, though, before you can disperse the money on this draw, you first need to get it from someplace. And so, Ian, right now, to increase the balance on the loan, you have to go to the funding and say, okay, on this date, we had a funding for this draw of whatever the amount was. Now, for you guys right now, you've already paid that, probably. In other words, you've already paid the owner builder before you add the balance to the loan. What I'm suggesting is you could say, well, we haven't actually paid them yet, but we got the monies from the lenders and we're going to deposit into a construction disbursement account. Now, you don't have to do this. In fact, is there just one fund or do you have multiple lending entities?
The way we're set up now is we have a couple, actually, and this brings up an interesting question. Will this module let us, on some loans, we charge interest on the full loan amount, even on undrawn funds, and on some we charge only on drawn funds.
Go ahead.
Can we do it both ways here?
Yeah, you can do it both ways. Right now, I'm trying to focus on one thing, and is that, do you want us to pay the borrower, or or is it going to be paid directly from each fund? But you don't have to answer that question. But if you want our system to pay the owner builder or his contractors, the lender monies need to be put into a bank account that we pay out of. In other words, we're not going to write the check out of the fund's bank account. If you want us to pay these draws, you're going to have to fund into a construction disbursement account. And then where did the money came from? Was it pari passu from a bunch of different lenders, or did just one lender put in the money? But you still have to do a funding on the loan. Okay. Writing the checks isn't what increases the balance. It's when the lender puts the money up for the draw. Okay, so you still need to do a funding transaction just like you've been doing, because that's what increases the balance. Now, again, if you want our system to disperse those items, then you actually have to physically put money into the construction disbursement account. And then we'd cut so if you do put it into a construction disbursement account, then that draw we queued up could then be paid. So you could say, well, I know, I'm sorry. So anyway, let's say the inspector came back. So we're going to complete the inspection. So it's going to stop showing up on the pending inspections, and then we're going to go to the voucher and say, okay, we're planning to release this because everything looked okay. If you want, you could update these amounts or things. Maybe he actually finished the plumbing work. Doesn't mean you have to change the amount of the draw request, but better that he did more than less than he's asking for. So again, and not everybody uses our system to actually disperse the monies. And you don't have to. You could just say, well, the fund paid it directly. And so that what this would do, it would update the budget without it actually you having to create a deposit and then pay out again.
Okay.
But if you want our system to pay those people, it can. And you can pay them either by physical check, or it could be, you could pay them by physical check, or it could be paid as an ACH credit to them. I don't have this payee currently set up for ACH credits, but it could. So you could either cut a check for $18,750 to the payee, or it could be sent as an electronic payment to them. And if you're cutting checks, you have to put checks in the printer and cut checks, or it could create an ACH file that you upload to your bank.
Okay.
And then, right, and I'll just mark this handwritten. But if you did this, then it would say, okay, that those checks have been paid. And so now in the system now, that voucher, if I refresh this, says it's been paid. Okay, and so now if I did another billing on this loan, this is the same bill I showed you a few minutes ago, except this time it's going to have one additional draw on it. So it says, okay, there's all my construction loans, and this is very similar to the billing I showed you earlier, except it's going to have one more draw. So it has the first two draws and the third draw on the last day of the month, and so it's charging them another $252 interest for that last day.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how people use the product. They either just come into the system and do additional fundings like you're currently doing. The difference is that it can run the different type of bill and update the ACH debit. But if you want to, you can also keep track of the line item budget and the draw requests. Now, Ian, I'm going to show you a different diagram here. Do you see this picture called Show Me the Money?
Yep.
All right. So in this diagram, these circles and squares are bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned you have more than one fund. Is that correct?
What we have is we have a fund with two different classes of shares in it. We've actually had to set it up as two different pools in your mortgage pool accounting, each class of shares, because they have different.
Okay, but in real life, there's one
one
fund, right?
Yep.
And that fund has a bank account, or at
Yes,
least
it
one
does.
bank account. Most of our customers, the borrower payments coming in, they don't take the payment, put it directly to the fund. They run it through a loan servicing clearing account. Do you guys do that?
Or separate loan servicing account. Yep.
Okay, so the payments come into here, and then it gets it paid back to the fund then, or other parties, right? Okay, so if you want our software to pay people, normally they wouldn't, they normally wouldn't, or that construction disbursements I showed you wasn't really designed to pay it out of the fund's bank account. It thought that money was coming in from lenders into either this account or potentially even another bank account, so that when you go out and do a capital call to fund the draw, we think you're going to deposit it into an account, and that's the account we pay the owner builders or contractors out of. Right now, you're just paying the amounts out of the fund's operating account, I think, right?
We are paying the funds. Sometimes we put it into the loan servicing account and then pay it from there.
You do? Okay. Right. Well, that's especially if you funded the whole amount at closing and then it's sitting in there sort of as an escrow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Right. So in other words, if you're charging interest in the whole amount, if you fund the whole amount and you escrow the holdback, then the construction module could pay people out of there. Yes, you could do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, on the ones that you hadn't fully funded at closing, instead of cutting the check from the funds account to the payee, you'd have to put those in here and then pay it out again too. In other words, our construction module only cuts checks or does ACH credits out of one account. And so if you're already holding monies in here for some of those outgoing construction draws, then even on the ones where you didn't fund it already, we think the money would come out of this account into this account, and then we would pay the construction draws. Or you could pick and choose. You could say some draws we actually pay them out of this account, and some we just say they've already been paid. So you could still do that. So you can update the budget even if the system isn't the one physically dispersing it, at least through the construction module. Okay, but anyway, it's a little tricky there how that works. So you're going to have to decide which draws you want the system to pay or which draws have already been paid.
Okay. Got it.
But the main thing is the billing. It's going to calculate the billing, and I didn't actually complete the billing, but let me show you something here. So right now, if I look at the term screen, Ian, you'll see where we don't have any payment amount scheduled there. And that's because we don't know until the end of the billing period what their payment's going to be. If you have them set up for direct debits, you're going to put their bank account information here. So the routing, the bank account information. So this is where you're going to set up their bank account information. So if you set up their bank account information, then once you run this bill, and I didn't complete the process before, let's complete it this time. So if you come here and say run all the construction bills, it finds all the construction loans. And then it can actually send them out by email. You can even send them a text message reminder, but this is going to generate the invoices. So it's going to send the email. It's going to put a copy of the invoice in each account. This is what the invoice looks like. This is the one we looked at before. So there's the bill. But what it's also going to do when you complete this process, it's going to update the payment amount. So now it knows what the payment amount is going to be for that period. And it also updates the ACH debit amount for that next due date.
Okay.
Okay. So that's sort of the construction.
Yeah, that looks pretty
module.
straightforward.
And that's sort of a segue in. Yeah, and let's talk about how it ties into the ACH
Okay.
for borrowers.
I'm going to let Steve go because he's got a few other things to do, and I'm going to hang on for the segue and the ACH.
Okay.
Steve, you good?
All righty.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks much. Appreciate it.
All right, Rick, it's just you and me.
Okay, so you're going to get your borrowers signed up for direct debits, and you apparently already have a way to get them signed up.
Yeah, we just do it by the bank website.
There is a Sure. Yeah, we have a letter in there. Like if you want to send them a letter and ask for a copy of a voided check,
yeah, we do that
manually
right now
too. All right. Okay. Well, you already have that letter in the system, by the way. If you wanted to start using it, there's a custom letter in there for that. Yeah. So, but you have this letter even if you haven't purchased the ACH module. It's in there.
Rick, before we go on, I have a question that I need to ask it right now before I forget it. Your custom reporting module, is that based on Crystal reports? Like if someone knows Crystal reports, are they going to be able to navigate your custom reporting builder?
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. It's not Crystal reports, but it's a similar. It's
is it some sort of off-the-shelf software? Because I could look for someone with those specific skills. What's it based on?
It's called Active Reports.
Okay.
Active Reports.
All right. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but all the report writers work pretty much the same way. So access reporting, active. Yeah, there's access report writers. There's active reports, which is what ours does, and there's Crystal reports, and I'm sure there's other ones too.
All right. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
But if they have the skill set for one, they'll be able to figure out ours.
Cool.
And it's not proprietary to us. It's something called Active Reports. Okay, so you're going to get the borrower's bank information, but you're not going to log into the bank to set it up. You're just going to type it into the loan.
Okay. Good.
Now, let me ask you another question. Are all your loans due on the first, or you have due dates all over the place?
They are now all due on the first. We started off with all over the place, and then we decided that was too difficult, and we moved to the first.
Right. And so on a loan that's fully funded, most people would go ahead and collect the odd days interest through the end of the month. And
you mean at closing, if it closes in the middle of the month? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, if you had a deal that closed today, a lot of times you'd collect interest at the end of November and then make their payment due on January 1st. Do you do that?
We don't collect any interest on the closing statement. We used to do that, if there was a week left in the month, we'd collect a week worth of interest in advance. Now we just close the loan, and on the first of the next month, we collect whatever's due. And so it's an
Okay,
odd
that's
number
fine
at the
too.
beginning of the first,
Yeah,
for the first month.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. That's sort of the design of our construction software, is that the first month would be a short month. So that actually works perfect. I want to show you something else. I'm taking a little bit of a detour from the ACH right now, but it's sort of it's an important to the conversation though. So this is what we were sort of talking about. That's time, right? Let's pretend we're past the first bill, okay. So right now, on your construction loans, you probably are trying to charge interest from the first to the end of the month,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
And then,
Yep, that's right.
okay, when is their payment due?
The first of the next month.
Okay, this can cause a problem on construction type loans, okay? Now, if you're charging interest on the total amount dispersed, not a problem. But, let's say that there's a loan that has draws.
Yep.
Okay, so if you're going to bill interest from the first to the end of the month, and there's draws during the month, you have to wait until the end of the month to create the bill, and then they only have 1 day to the next day to make the payment. And the problem is, if you send the bill earliest, then you have a dead zone here. The borrower can't take any more draws, and they can't make payments on the loan.
Okay.
So, and the banks already know about this. The banks that have been doing construction type loans or loans withdrawals, just like a home equity line of credit. If you want the payments to be due on the first, then you need to make the billing period different. You say, well, bill the 21st to the 20th every month. That's what if you have a HELOC, that's what they do. There's a cutoff date, and then you have a gap until the payment's due. Just like a credit
Since
card.
all of our loans
All
we do ACH pulls, we're not allowing any of our borrowers to send us a check. This may be less of an issue for us because we could generate the bill and pull the money 5 minutes later. We don't have to give them time to process.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I just wanted to bring this up. Okay, so when you set up these loans, you have to define what's called a billing cycle and a due date. Okay, and if the billing, if you want it to be the first to the end of the month, you say the start day is 1, and then the due date would also be 1. So it'd be billing from the first to the end of each month, and then the first day of the next month. So that's fine. I just wanted you to know this because we have a lot of people that they want to create the bills on the 20th, and then they end up with a problem. Most of our Canadian customers, you're not in Canada, but
no,
I don't think, but most of our Canadian customers, they're like you. They run the bill and take the money the next day. They don't ask any questions. There's anyway. But sometimes, like, you may have already been having this problem.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But if you were, I want to explain to you, we do have a fix for it. And that is, instead of doing it this way, you could say, well, the bills are the 20th, 21st to the 20th. You cut it off, and the bills are due on the 1st.
Makes sense.
Or maybe you want to go through the 1st to the end of the month and make the bills due on the 10th instead of the 1st. That's what the banks do. They have a cutoff date and then say, okay, we're going to give you whether 5 or 10 days
grace
to
period
make the
or whatever.
Well, not really a grace period. Just the difference between the cutoff date and the due date. There may be a grace period even after that due
makes
date.
sense.
All right, but you don't have to do that. But just in case we needed to talk about it, I wanted to bring it up. Okay, so you're gonna put the borrower's bank account information here, and then what you're gonna do then for the construction loans, you need to run the bills because that's what's gonna reset that payment amount, right? And then once you run bills for last month, you just say, well, now I need to go get all the payments. And so you're going to push this button, say I need to go get all the payments for next month. And even though you're always charging interest for the last day of the month, if you want to, you could give them a grace period. You could say, well, even though your loan's due on the 1st, maybe we said it's okay to take it out on the 5th or the 7th or something like that. So you could give it a range of debit days. So again, even though the loans are all due on the 1st, you could have a range of debit days scheduled.
All right.
It's gonna look for all those loans. Actually, let me put
It
one
looks
other
for
little piece
all
of
loans,
information.
construction and conventional. This is just one process for ACH.
Okay. That is correct. Can I get your cell
612
phone number?
300 1735.
All right. This is optional too, but so you're right. So on the last day of the month, you run the bills, and as soon as you're done running the bills, then you say, okay, now let's create the ACH file. And so you'd say, go get the money for next month. It could be either the 1st of the month, or if you did give them any grace period, you could say, look for ones that have debits a little bit after that. So it's going to find all those loans, and then on the next step, it can send a text message if you want to, and or an email to let the borrower know that you're about to debit their bank accounts. Did you get a text yet?
I'm Lee Construction, so I got it. Yep, thank you.
Yep, so it's saying we're planning to deduct these monies from your account, right? And then what it does next is it applies the payments automatically to the loans right
now. If we want it to do that, what if one bounces?
So it goes ahead.
What happens then?
Well, I'll show you that in a moment. But it's the same thing. If the borrower gave you a check, you'd post the payment and then take the check to the bank. So it's the same thing. So if you take a check to the bank, you assume it's going to clear too. So it posts the payments. It gives you a list of all the payments it just posted. And then the system creates an electronic file called an ACH file. The banks call it a NACHA file, which stands for National Automated Clear. Yeah. So you save it to your computer, you log into online banking, and you upload the NACHA file.
Is that an absolutely standardized file, or am I going to have to talk to my bank about their specific format?
The banks all use the same format. It's called the NACHA file. The only difference is whether they want, you see this list of items here? You see how they're all code 27s? That's the debits. Some banks want an extra line item that's the sum of all those, the offset, and then some don't. Okay, so so you have to find out for your bank, should it be a balanced file or a non-balanced file? And a balanced file means it gives one more record. It would be the sum of all the debits.
Is there a checkbox in your software for one versus the other?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, but that's the only question you need to ask your bank. Should it be a balanced file or not? And if they say yes, you got to go check a box.
Is there a separate process for for credits?
Let me just get this off the system for a second. So it finds all the loans, it posts the payments, it creates the NACHA file, you upload it to your bank. If the bank tells you it didn't go through, well, then you'd have to look up the loan, you'd open up the payment history, and you'd mark the transaction
there we go.
as NSF. So again, if it's a rejected debit or a bounced check, it's the same process.
Got it.
And then you'd probably use this transaction. But what this is going to do, it's going to add your NSF fee. You could send a letter to the customer or not. And then it's going to reverse the payment and add the NSF.
Believe it or not, we haven't had to use it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's what you would do. You'd have to go to the loan history for the loan, and you'd use the Actions NSF button.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, so that's pretty much it. So right now, what we did is it's under loan transactions. So right now you're manually posting payments. In other words, the bank goes and gets the money, and then you're typing the payments in. The difference is we post the payments automatically and then create the file.
Do you also have a payment processor? I think at one point you did for an extra fee. You could.
Yeah, we work with either Heartland. There's two different payment processing companies we work with. I think there's actually 3 on this list, but I don't think one of them
Okay.
is really active yet. But it's either Heartland or Payment Data Systems. And so instead of uploading this file to your bank, you push a button and it would send it to them, and then they'd go collect.
Yeah, I don't think we'd need that. Other than it's a little bit easier because you're pushing a button and it's sending, as opposed to manually uploading to a bank website.
Yeah. Now, the website that you go to now to type in the new borrower stuff, there's probably already a button.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Upload
It's just
file.
a couple more, logging in and all that. Yeah.
Sure. So that's how this works on using the ACH module to get money from people. Now, you started asking me a question about using it for credits. Well, there's 2 types of credits. One would be for those construction draw vouchers. You could pay people electronically for the draws. But then the bigger thing is that, well, right now you said about 2 dozen investors in the fund. With 2 dozen, however you're doing it now, it probably doesn't kill you. But if you had 200 investors in the funds, it'd be killing you. But the idea is, in our pooling software, where you have the partners set up, you're going to have their bank account. You're going to set them up to get paid electronically.
Sure.
Okay. And then when you go to pay them, I don't know if I have any pending draws and pending payments. Let's see if I do. No, I don't. Well, I do in another one. Let me go to. Well, let's just do a dividend. So let's say you do a dividend. And, maybe I've got a very high share price. Let's say I do that times 0.08 divided by 4. And, well, let's say this was for the 3rd quarter, which is July through September. So if I'm going to do a 8% return, then it's going to create a dividend for those investors. Let me try that again. Yep, $37 a share. That's a big dividend. But anyway, once you crew up these things, anybody that's going to get paid electronically, you see the lightning bolts here? So this would be the people in your fund that are actually going to take a cash dividend. So instead of cutting checks to them, you'd say create the ACH file. It creates another NACHA file, and you upload it to your bank. This time, though, it's going to be used to take money out of the fund's account and then send it to those partners. And once you upload that file to your bank, then you could say, well, let's send an email to those partners letting them know that the money's on its way. So it's going to find those investors, and then it can start sending them, it'll send them an email with a remittance advice attached to it. So it's the same ACH module, but now you're using it to send money to the partners rather than getting money from borrowers. So it says, Dear Phil, this money should be in your account tomorrow. So he gets an email with his remittance advice. Okay,
good. That looks all very straightforward. I think the only thing left is unless there's anything else to show me, is for me to talk to Brian about pricing. Does that sound right?
Okay. Yep. Any other questions for me before I get you back to him?
Is line of credit? This is all, now that I know the software, I'm not sure I'm sure I could figure stuff out. We could do line of credit at some point. Is there anything that's exceptionally weird about that I should?
If you get the construction module, you probably don't need.
Oh, that's interesting, because that handles some intra-month stuff, right?
Well, it does. They could be taking draws or paying downs. In fact, we even have a button. In the construction module that says, "Is it a revolving?"
Yeah. Okay. Good. Hey, I'm even more motivated to get the construction module now. Okay.
Yeah. Now, even though you make it a revolving loan, it doesn't really if you make it a revolving loan, and this is a report I didn't show you yet, but if it's a revolving loan, well, let me show you this report. So when there's a report in here called loans pending funding. And this is just a list of all the loans set up as a construction type loan. But if the revolving is on, then any amounts repaid would put it back in the available fund account. If it's not set up as revolving, then them paying back part of the principal isn't going to make it available again. But this would be the construction note, what we've given them, and then this would be your unfunded construction liability amount. You got to be able to cover those remaining draws.
Another question. We use your monthly subscription thing, so we've got the software installed in the cloud on an Amazon workspace. If we want to have multiple licenses and multiple users accessing the software at the same time, does that work in the Amazon environment? So we would have a couple of workspaces and then like a SQL database that's separate, or how does all that work with the database?
Well, you do get a separate workspace, and then we create a shared drive. And it's not necessarily SQL unless you've already asked for the SQL data.
We still use the Access one.
Yeah, well, it would be Access, but there'd be a shared drive on AWS still on that Access.
And multiple people can access at once, and like records get locked when one person's accessing this loan, the other person can't edit the loan, type of thing.
We have some people that have over 50 licenses talking to an Access database.
And there's not like
and that's been going on for
and that shared drive is
years.
An actual shared drive. It's not like Dropbox where you get multiple versions of the database that are conflicting because one person changed here and it didn't sync in time over there, type of thing. Okay.
It's not like that. Yeah, I'm not a programmer or developer, or networking wizard, but we've had people. Yeah, it works. Yeah, I mean, if you want to upgrade to SQL, you can, but unless you're like a city government or a bank or you have 10,000 loans, you probably don't need it.
I didn't even know that was available.
We have some people like, yes. Yeah, but the way our software is designed is that, we sell the software to a company at a location. This is when you used to have to put it on your own computers, right? So let's say this isn't Amazon. Let's say it's your office. Let's say you get 4 licenses. So those are computers. So you'd install the mortgage office on each computer you have a license for, right? And then your database is going to be on a server probably, right? So everybody's talking to the same database, right? And you can do this with an Access database. You can have multi-users. Access isn't as strong as Microsoft SQL or SQL, but we've had customers for over 30 years, having multiple access to the Access database. So our system has record locking and all that stuff in there. If 2 people are trying to change an address to the same file, whoever clicks apply first wins. And then the next user is going to get a message saying somebody's already updated this file. File again. But it's the exact same thing, even if it's on Amazon. So the Amazon Workspaces is the same thing. Each of these is considered a separate workspace, but then you get a separate shared drive with I think 1 gigabyte on it or something like that. And if you need more than that, I guess you have to call them up and increase your subscription or something.
We have some loans where the interest rate will adjust if the loan goes beyond a certain date. Do we need your ARM module for that, or is there a way of doing that with the stuff we already have?
You just change the interest rate.
Just like set a reminder to do it manually.
Yeah. Now there is another way to do it. If you like, we have another module called a GTM module, and let me give you now. You would only get this GTM module if you sort of know what the new rate's going to be ahead of time. If it's just at maturity date, you're going to evaluate it. Then this wouldn't help you.
Okay, graduated term mortgage is not what GTM. Okay.
Right, graduated in terms of mortgage, right. So just as an example, let's say you do this deal, 100,000 loan, $1,000 a month interest. And you say, okay, well, if you still need the money after month 13th, we're going to, you can, but it's going to be automatically done at like a new interest rate. And so you could say, at that future date, we're going to up the rate. We're going to update the payment amount. And so, like in other words, when you first wrote the deal, it was already predetermined. Then you could use the GTM module to say, okay, well, did I do that right? I guess I did. So the payments are at 12%, and then I guess I didn't quite do it at month 13. I did it at month 18. So on month 18, we're going from 12 to 15. So it's a way to pre-program the rate change and payment amount.
All right. I'll ask Brian about that. Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, and this would work for the construction loan too. You wouldn't set the payment amount because the payment amount is going to be calculated when you run the bill. But you could just say, as of a certain point in time, we're going to put in a different interest rate, or you could just manually type it in before you run the next.
I think my last question is, when do people bother with your QuickBooks integration add-on? Why or when would I need that?
You probably wouldn't think it was.
So far we haven't, but we do duplicate things in
well,
QuickBooks. So I'm wondering, give me an example of how people use it.
All right. So yeah. Okay. So you told me you do run the payments through a servicing account first, right? Okay. So QuickBooks. So right now, every time you post a payment on a loan, it creates a deposit, and then you either write checks to yourself or you tell us you moved it electronically or something. But in our servicing system, it's a checkbook registers of all the ins and outs. To answer the question is, why do people get QuickBooks? It's because they don't have a servicing clearing account. All the borrower payments go directly into the company's operating account. In other words, they don't have any other lenders. They don't have a fund. It's just the company owns all the notes. And if the company owns all the notes, then the QuickBooks says all these borrower payments are going to then go to the general ledger for this bank account. That's why we wrote that system. But if you do have a servicing account, at the end of the month, we think you just run a report and make a journal entry to update the ending balance. But the thing is, it's not going to go to the fund's QuickBooks account and update the fund's bank account. It's not going to do that. It's only whoever owns this. Is this bank account owned by the fund or the fund manager? Yeah. So right, and so the fund manager's QuickBooks company account is different than the fund's QuickBooks company account. So it's not going to go to the general ledger for the fund and update their activity. But so it was really designed for a company that there's only one entity and it owns their own loans.
So we don't need it.
They typically don't have this clearing account. I would say not at this time. I don't think it's going to give you any real benefit. What we think they're going to do is after you've done all the money in and out of the servicing account, you're going to come here and run this register for the prior month. And that's going to give you the opening balance and the closing balance of that account, and then you just make a summary journal entry. So this would be the beginning balance, all the money received, paid out, and then you make a journal entry so the QuickBooks knows what the ending balance is on that account.
I think I've got it. Is Brian still available so I can chat with him?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get him to pick up.
Very helpful. Thank you once again, Rick. Appreciate it.
Okay.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you later. Okay, thanks. Hold on. Bye.
Hey, you're back. All right.
Heyo.
Thanks for that. Now I've got some questions for you on pricing. I got a fancy email about an end of year sale. What's that all about?
We
Okay,
are
I'll
just
take
giving things
I'll take
away.
I'll take two then.
Let me look up your account here. So you're on SaaS. So we're adding. So construction. It's like an extra 125 a month. GTM and ACH are both like an $85 add-on per month.
Now those prices are the same as you quoted me a while ago. So is there some additional sale thing, or what is that for?
Yeah, let me put that in the system here and see what it pops out. Hang on. ACM. Add module. ACH. GTM. Construction. So it's a little more complex one is the monthly lease thing here. So if we're adding 585, 125, 85, 85. So that's basically adding to, if you do all three of those, you're adding $295 to your monthly obligation. And we could basically take the equivalent of that off for the equivalent of $295, that additional cost for the year, and kind of spread it out. So essentially, like you're paying for 11 months and getting one
So
for
that's the
free.
sale. It's a 1/12 off, basically, as long as we are there around for a year. Does that sound right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Do you have any? Is there any discounts if we buy multiple licenses? We're starting to run into each other using the one license. Does it get cheaper for multiple seats?
Yeah, the second one isn't nearly as much as the first one, so
Okay.
go
So
back to that.
just for the, let's look at the pricing for the main stuff that we have now without any add-ons that I might add today.
Yeah. Well, right now, looks like you pay. Was it 845?
Actually, yeah, you can tell me what I pay. We have the
I think it's
servicing
845.
and the pool. So what are we paying now?
So it looks like we were to 845. The actual pricing is 885, so you got some kind of
Yeah, there was some end of year
discount in
thing
there. I
when we
don't
signed up.
recall. Yeah. So if we add a second one, that makes it 1155.
Okay, so we're doing 845 to 1155. Is that right? Okay. So that is an additional 310. So it's like equals the second license is like 30%, 36% the cost of the first one. Does that sound right? Okay.
Sounds
All
about
right.
right. Pretty close.
And then since we're doing that SaaS thing, are we talking about having now 2 Amazon workspaces? Is that how that would work? So
Exactly.
we'd be like, hey, you, Bob, log into this one. You, Jim, log into this one. And then you won't bump into each other. Is that how that works?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So,
Yep. And it'd be shared. They'd be
okay.
able, the database would be shared, but most likely they
All
would
right.
work on the same
Can
database.
we do, okay, so the extra modules that we need ACH and construction. We do not need the GTM. So what is the price for a single license with those extra modules? And then the price for a second seat with all those modules. I want to take in chunks here so I can decide on which one I'm going to choose. If we're going to keep bumping into each other or add the second seat.
Right. More
I'm
important
sorry,
to do
say that
first.
again.
That you're just
Well,
trying
we're
to figure out
definitely
which
the
one's
ACH
more
and
important to do
construction.
first.
So, and then I'll decide if we're going to do the second seat as well. So just tell me the.
So yeah, so you're adding on. If you're adding ACH and construction, you're adding $210 to your monthly
Okay,
obligation.
or 11/12. So then you're doing a credit separately for that free month, like, or do we multiply that by 11/12 to get what I'd actually pay?
So pretty much, I mean, essentially. So yeah, if we took, so yeah, if I'm 210 times 12, right, take a 12 off, so minus 10, that gives you 2310. Divide that by 12, that gives you 192.50. Basically, what you're adding to your.
Yep. Okay, that's the same math I get. Okay, so it's 845 plus 192.50. Is that right? 845 is what we're currently paying, so we're doing $1,000 a month then.
Yes.
1,037.50.
845 plus. Yes, 845 plus 25.
Okay, good. All right, so we got that price, and now what is the second license? Yes, please. Oh, do we have to do all the modules? Is it like if one guy who only does servicing, can we just get him a servicing license, or does it? Okay,
No,
so
unfortunately,
yes, all the
licenses
modules.
have to be identical. So that is at, yes, so 95 and 170. So I'll just put it in here. So two licenses, ACH is 95 instead of 85, and construction is 170 instead of 125.
So we're adding $10, and we're adding
170.
70 minus 25 is $45. So we're adding $55. Is that right? Oh, but you got to do the main licenses too. Okay, I'll let you do the math.
How do I do this in this system here? They keep evolving the system, and it was built for perpetual licenses, and now they're evolving it into SaaS. So then we do some new way of SaaS. like think it through to calculate properly. So 2 is C and construction. Four, 1, 5. So 1415 would be monthly, less thing. If I have basically that 265 becomes 243 on E, where we're taking off. Right, so I'm taking 243. $22 off of the 1415. So the new one is 33. Am I doing that right? Take off 115. $22 per month. So yeah, $22 a month. So we're taking $22 off of the 1415.
Oh no, you were. I thought you were talking out loud. So what's the total amount for the? Give me the bottom line.
It's 1415 minus $2.
1415 minus 22, so it comes out to 1393 per month.
13.
That's for 2 licenses. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Can you sign me up for that, please?
Correct.
And I assume you got to do some kind of installation or setup of that second instance, the second workspace.
Yes. Yes, that's just a $75 one-time setup thing. So I'll put together a quote for that and shoot that over to you. And then when do you due for your next payment?
I think I made a quarterly payment pretty recently, actually.
We can probably just charge you for the additional, like a quarter of the additional amount, if you just made one fairly recently. So I'll check with accounting on that, if it's close enough,
Okay.
and then if there's a difference, then it would just get prorated appropriately and credited. So I'll put together a sales quote for that, and then shoot that over to you, and you can pay. You can do
Yeah, I've been just paying
credit
with
card
credit card
before.
on the
We do
website
credit
whenever I
card
get an
for
invoice.
that. Okay. So I'll put a little link in the
Okay.
email.
Good. How soon will
that?
that? How soon can we have this all set up?
Shoot the paperwork back. Well, as soon as we process the credit card
Okay.
and the paperwork
And
back.
how much? When will you get me
24
that
hours.
stuff? Do you have to get with accounting and all that? Or is that a today thing or a take?
I should be able to have it
Okay.
over to you.
All right.
I should be able to
Cool.
over to you before I leave today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your help. All right. Have a good day.
Cool.
Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty.